morning.
Good morning, Tonja.
And autumn blessings to you. You know, it's always a joy for me to be with you. It really, really is. Thank you for all that has happened, all that will be. It's just such a beautiful energy inside this morning. Will you pray with me? God, there's no need to invoke presence. You're already here. We've already affirmed that God is our source. God is our power. God is our peace. We could not travel this journey without it all. We were never designed to do so. Continue to manifest and do what only you can do for us, in us, in spite of us, with us. Bless us. Amen.
Amen.
It's all good. A lot of the phrases that emerge from our younger generations confuse me, but this one I got. It's all good. It's all good. Let's see what we can do with that this morning. So October is my birthday month. My birthday was October 2nd.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And so it has been my practice to use one of the spiritual practices that comes out of contemplative Christianity, which is called the Examen, as a way of reflecting and holding all that has occurred in the previous year. The Examen can be done and is typically taught as a way of reflecting at the end of the day. Doesn't have to be long, it can be 5 minutes or so, and a series of questions are held within your consciousness and in your soul to think about all that's occurred during the day. You would do it in a relaxed state, and questions would emerge like, what moments during the day were life-giving for me? What moments were life-draining? What perhaps needs to be healed? What needs to be forgiven? So I use the Examen and do sort of like a life review for the previous year. And I ask these questions. And it is one of the ways that I lean into this perspective that it's all good. Despite what it looks like, despite what it feels like, despite the way that life may be showing up in front of me, despite how those that journey with me may interpret what is happening to me, with me, it's been my intention to live into this, it's all good. At the end of the day, it is, I think, the Spirit's way of inviting me to hold on to a sound mind, a sound sense of gratitude, which I have come to understand is the key to allowing the universe to work out the details of my life, to enjoy the journey, not live with a spirit of dread. with fear. But to hold this, it's all good, because not only is it just a perspective, I believe it's so much more. So, one writer says, Dennis Shield and Matthew Lynn, they write about the examine in one of their books, Sleeping with Bread. And they offer some suggestions as to why they use the examine. And a lot of their work has been on the mission field. And so they have said that they use the examine as a way to enter a process, a flow of life that helps them avoid spiritual and physical burnout. The Lynn said they've discovered that burnout comes not necessarily because one is doing too much, but from doing things one really doesn't want to do. So they use it as a way to discern what one should do. What should I do more of? What should I do less of? It's a way to flow and discern the interior movement of divine revelation as it unfolds in your life or in one's life. It's a way to discover whatever it is that helps us connect with ourselves, with God, with others, with the universe. It's all good. It's a way of connecting. I like the way that the author of Blessings of the Cosmos said it. He said, you know what? You ought to just hitch your soul to the cosmic Christ. Hitch your life vision to the cosmic Christ. And if you'll do that, then wisdom, understanding, past, present interpretations can be changed, can be modified, can be enhanced, so that when one looks at one's life, that what emerges is not just fleeting senses of regret, disappointment, but up from the depths of one's life, because it's all good, because the essence of God is good, that something beautiful can emerge. Something life-giving can spring forth. There is a folk tale that's written in the Eastern writings thousands of years ago. And the story says that once upon a time, an angel appeared to a seeker hard at work in the field of life and said, I have been instructed by the gods to inform you that you will have 10,000 more lives. The wanderer, who had been pursuing the dream of eternal life for years, slumped to the ground in despair. Oh no, the seeker wailed and rolled in the dust. Then the angel moved on to another seeker bent over in the heat of the day and repeated the message. I have been told to tell you, said the angel, that you will have 10,000 more lives. Really? The seeker exclaimed. 10,000 more lives? Then the seeker straightened up, arms flung toward heaven, head up, face beaming, and began to dance and prance and shout with joy. Only 10,000 more lives. Only 10,000 more lives. Well, which seeker really understands best the nature of life? Or better yet, does either of them? Perhaps there is a bit of both of these seekers in all of us. So one spiritual writer unpacks this story this way. The question is, which seeker is right? Is life itself of its very essence a burden, barely to be borne, to be tolerated, surely to be dreaded for its demands and dejections along the way? Are we simply alive to pass a series of anonymous cosmic tests in order to win the game that we are not fully fully sure sometimes that we were taught really how to play. Surely there must be something unfair about all of that if that were the case. Or are we meant to be the inner artisans of our lives? To know instinctively that we are the only possible inventors of the fullness of our own happiness. To craft and shape, design and sculpt for ourselves the contours of a life so stable, so happy, that no single thing, no single event can crush its spirit. In the letter to the Romans in our Bible, there in chapter 8, there is a verse that I believe helps solidify what we're considering this morning. It says we can be sure that every detail in our lives is worked into something good. Another reading says we are assured and we know that God, as our partner in all our labors, all things work together and are fitting into a divine plan. And that plan is for good. There are two primary themes that jump out in the 8th chapter of Romans. One is that God works all of these things, every single detail, individually, collectively, for each one of us, for all of us, for our communities, for the world. It's all working. It's working. Every detail. For our benefit, towards our highest good. And perhaps the invitation right here might be to hold this intuitively, because I don't want to assume that that lands exactly right. It may not feel right for you right now. And as we think about the details of our life, oftentimes I think that sometimes in Christianity we feel that everything has to be perfect before we can proclaim God is in the midst. And that's simply not so. God is in the midst. Whether it seems perfect, whether it feels perfect, whether it appears to be all in line or not, that there is a presupposition that can animate everything about our lives, that God is in the midst, that it may not feel like it, but God is trustworthy. The universe is faithfully taking care of us. There's full support for our journey. The second thing that jumps out in Romans chapter 8 is that there's no separation. And I invite you in your time to go back and look at this chapter, because the writer enumerates a series of things that could separate or could cause this sense of separation. From persecutions, from hardships of all kinds, from looking at situations even in our world where sometimes we feel as if there is no hope. What do we do? Sometimes when we look around, just the weight of everything that is in front of us and that what is given to us on the news can cause us to feel that there's no hope. That is God really in the midst. And I believe it's okay to admit that. You know, sometimes I go places people don't want to admit that sometimes they question, where is God in the midst of this? Doesn't mean that God isn't. It just means that our humanity oftentimes looks for signs. Our humanity oftentimes wants the tangible manifestations before we really buy in to that this can work out for good. Sometimes we need tangible evidence that despite the fact that we may not know the next right step, that somehow, somewhere, that there is something within us, there is something around us, there's a force, there's a power, there's a presence, there's a promise, something that will give us the unction to move forward and to not spiral downward in a sense of hopelessness. And if in fact you do, there's still good news. That there is help, support, and love that will come to your aid. I don't even know where I am. Okay. So, one of the metaphysical writers said, it is not in the consciousness of God to withhold that which is for your good. I like that. I like that. It is not in the consciousness of God to withhold that which is for your good. The Course in Miracles says it this way. All things are lessons God would have you learn. This is the lesson. There is a way to look at everything that lets it be to you another step to God and to the salvation of the world. So without this essential posture of openness, without the intention of taking time to look at life from a soul perspective, that the openness, I mean, without to do that, it's just not possible to fully, I'm going to submit that it's not possible to fully grasp that it's all good. One writer says that God comes in every voice, behind every face, and every memory, in every deep struggle. Don't you just want to say real? God comes in every voice, behind every face and every memory, deep in every struggle. To close off any of them is to close off the possibility of becoming new again ourselves. Paula Darcy, in her writings about her spiritual life, asked this question in her time, and I like it. She said, if I were to recognize God, God is creator, God is spirit, the one who moves in and out of my life in disguise, would I finally arrive at the other side of this dream that insists that the meaning of life rests in every circumstance? So the divine mind says to us in Jeremiah 29:11, I know the thoughts that I think toward you. Thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. I may not know. Somebody knows, though. Intuitively, we can know that it's all good and it all is grace. Last few minutes, just want to look at the principle of life. This life that we've been given, even in the biblical text, when you unpack it, it's really interesting. Because life is more than just that presence, that spirit that animates the human being. The message from the biblical text, and I believe in our intuitive knower, is that life is also about vitality. It's not just about the breath that causes you to live, move, and have your being in God. It is that and more. The breath of God imparts life and wisdom. It imparts a sense of the divine purpose, divine being, sacredness in life. It's there. It's there. The vitality aspect of life is that this life presence, this life force, enables you to sustain your life, to live prosperously. It's the same energy that until your time is done here in this incarnation, in this earth, in this life, that it revives you from sickness. It revives you from discouragement. It revives you from faintness. It restores you to life and will cause you to grow. An imagery could be where you have a runner that's running a race, like a marathon. And have you heard of a second wind, where the runner would run and almost faint and collapse right before finishing the race? So what really is going on here is that this life presence and life force is to help propel you to the end in such a way that when it's time for you to transition to the next life or whatever your belief system is, that you'll do so with an assurance, an energy, a knowing that this life was not all there is. We sang it, that there must be a sense of heaven somewhere, not just beyond, but in this life, that there is support, there is energy, there is vitality, there is an assurance, something that helps you along the way. So that when these vicissitudes of life come, when the questions arise, you're not afraid to ask questions. You're not afraid to ask God why. You're not afraid to risk loving again, even after ... There's something happening in the midst of all that's going on in day-to-day life that I believe the Spirit would have you know or remind you that it's all good and all of it is grace, because you're not alone. There is a Christ consciousness that we can live into, that's available. And the Gospel of John, this Christ consciousness tells us that God has come, that the revelation of Christ is that not only that you may have life, but that you may enjoy your life and have it in abundance, that your life be full, even with the aches and pains, even with unruly children, even with, debt, whatever, that your life be full till it overflows. That no matter wherever you are, no matter wherever you find yourself, that the next day holds possibility. The next day holds something for you to tap into. That this life, in the relative sense and in the absolute, can be more than you ever dreamed of. Let me go back to vitality in these last few minutes. In the Johannine writings, in the Gospel of John, this abundant life is actually a thing that's picked up from the Old Testament and runs all the way through the New. That this sacred text is holding a message as a container to tell you, to remind us that life in all its fullness is more than we can dream of. It's a gift. We've been graced to live it. We were never designed to do it on our own. I was called to a conference last week on church revitalization. And I want to share something with you that I think is helpful in our considerations. They used the word revitalization and extracted the word vital. Well, now we've just talked about that this life force, this life presence, is not just that which animates our existence, that God is saying that you can have vitality in your life. That you can have this sense of energy that allows you to put one foot in front of the other, no matter what is going on. It is the energy to allow you to finish the journey and enjoy your life. What they've done is taken this word vital and made an acronym. And the acronym, the V stands for vision. The I for inspirational and incarnational. The T for transformational. The A for adaptive. L for loving. So, this acronym can, I believe, act like a spiritual respirator when you need one. If you have a vision for your life that's prayerfully discerned and connected to God, something greater than you, then you can start over, begin and again. You can begin anew. There's no need to recycle things in the Spirit of God. You can have something new every day. A new experience, a new awakening, a new sense of knowing. But you got to have a vision. You got to connect your life, your soul thoughts and soul essence to something greater than you. That if you live a life that's inspired, a life that's incarnational, one that's connected to God, again, but also one that realizes your full humanity in connecting to others. So you've got a vertical connection, a horizontal connection going on. You're experiencing God. You're having this exchange of power. Transformational. Bringing one's transforming self to everything you do. That's the best offering, I believe, that we can give. As we do our work in the world. As we do our work one beside another. That we bring ourselves evolving. Openness. Looking for the greater good. That we can receive and that we can give. That we're adaptive. Having the ability to adapt into the changes that occur in your life and in my life. That we stay open to life through a process that the scientists call accommodation. When a revelation of God emerges in your life, whether that is seeing an angel or holding the hand of a baby, and something within you awakens to the reality of your uniqueness and your preciousness and your glorious magnificence. That you make room for that in your being so you can hold on to it. You got to make room for it to lose it. You got to make room for what happens. So we open up. And the L is for loving. It's for giving and receiving love and the compassion of God. And like I said earlier, the risk to love again, to love more, to love better in spite of or because of the love that has been, first of all, freely given to you. As I close, let me use this last quote and give this to you. It's one that we use when we do labyrinth work. It's by Carol Adams. Carol says that your life is a sacred journey. It's about change, growth, discovery, movement, transformation, continuously expanding your vision of what is possible, stretching your soul, learning to see clearly and deeply, listening to your intuition, taking courageous risks, embracing challenges at every step along the way. You are on the path, exactly where you are meant to be right now. Because it's all good. It's all grace. Would you do something for me? You know, words are vibrations. We know that, right? And so I'd like for you just, if you feel comfortable, to say that so that it can get in our fields to help us to remember. And so if you're comfortable, would you say, for all that has been, for all that is to come, it's all good, and all is grace. My prayer is that this reality will color your world, and that it will give you lasting and enduring peace.